when you're in front of other humans, your behavior changes, and you don't behave the same way in front of your family, your loved ones, your friends, your enemies.
That's true.
The cops. You're just someone else.
How do you like to create characters?
So when it's based on real people, the challenge is to understand who they are beyond the obvious. Meaning, and you'll see this with biopics. It's especially when they don't work, right? I don't want to get the public persona because I can find that on YouTube. Especially if it's indulgent and mostly lazy, self-conscious. So I'm not gonna criticize any biopics, but it's like I already knew that, that's an actor playing that guy. But I want to see what happens backstage. I want to see what happens when they're alone. I want to see who they were before they were well-known or confident about themselves. I want to see what they do when the world is not watching. So with the Chicago script, I actually got a chance to talk to the guy who it was based on, and there was a big challenge in there because he was a revolutionary, and I think he still is a revolutionary. So when he read my script, of course you never adapt reality exactly as it is. You gotta change it up a bit, and you gotta adapt it for it to be a story, because reality is chaos. Stories have a structure, right? And you gotta fudge the facts a little bit, not too much, ideally. So he wanted it to be like a documentary, so he basically called me all sorts of names. We had a great relationship until he read the script, and he was like, no, you didn't write it exactly as I told you. I'm like, well, that's not a story. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but you're trying to understand the person, how they see the world, their contradictions, how they are three-dimensional people. When you're making up characters, it's not that different in the sense that you're trying to find in your own database attitudes that resonate and that would build a possible individual. And some just filter in there when you're writing. As I said, when you write a couple fighting or a mother and daughter fight, or father and son fight, whatever, it's hard not to think of your own experience, either intentionally or unintentionally. There are guiding questions you can use always. I remember there was a 6-question questionnaire that Neil Landau gave me at UCLA. Again, I had great instructors at UCLA, people who I still talk to. And it was basically, the questions were like, what's the trait that that you like least about yourself? It was like introspection questions, but then how to apply that to character. Like, what's your crutch? What's your strength? So again, when I teach character at UCLA, I mean, I give them multiple techniques. Ask all the possible questions, observe. There's an exercise I make them do where it's like eavesdrop people. Don't be creepy, but when you go to the supermarket, eavesdrop on conversations and see how people relate to one another. Just in terms of dialogue, right? Notice how some people don't finish their sentences. Notice how the euphemisms, what they avoid saying. Notice what they actually say and what's implied with their body language. Observation is always the key to character and dialogue.
Walking down the Santa Monica Strand, you can pick up fantastic conversation. You don't even have to eavesdrop. You're just there, and people.
They're not even concealing what they're just saying it out loud. I'd say anywhere in LA, cities like. Well, the truth is, if you're a curious person, you'll find characters anywhere. It doesn't have to be LA. It can be any town. just notice how people are very specific, about how they present themselves. I always say this to my students when they have to pitch, like, remember that it's not just your words, it's how you present yourself. They've already started judging you the moment you came in. So, choose how you're going to dress for that meeting, how you're going to present yourself. Just because know that they're paying attention, right? The same thing with characters is, how do they dress? Do they care about how they look? Do they care about appearances? Do they not? How do they feel about aging? Do they care if they're wrinkled, or do they not care at all?
Or are they overcompensating?
Exactly.
For aging.
Do they have any physical issues that affects their personality? Now, not per se. What I'm saying is that affects their personality. Usually there's a connection.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or are they always, another thing is someone that's always bragging about themselves? That speaks volumes.
Yeah. Well, that's, it's always, that's why I like to have characters' intimate moments, because it's your persona and your actual self are very different. How many people are depressed and we don't know it?
That's true.
Right? And now, thankfully, we're talking about it in public, but even now, I'm trying to be honest with you, but there's a part of me that this is my persona. We can't help it,
I'm doing the same thing.
I'm doing my best to be myself, but,
We're even here.
Yeah. When you're in front of other humans, your behavior changes, and you don't behave the same way in front of your family, your loved ones, your friends, your enemies.
That's true.
The cops. You're just someone else.
The checker at you're happy. Hey, how was your day? Oh, great. Hey, everything's
We have
fantastic.
so many masks,
Yeah.
So many masks.
Did you catch that game the other night? Oh, it was great. Yeah, all right, well, you take it easy.
If you go to the DMV, you're going to try to be really friendly because you know that those people they hate their jobs, and I don't blame them. So you're like, hey, it's a beautiful day, whatever, I don't know.
How do you find out what a character wants?
I guess it has to be something that I'm interested in. Sometimes character will come out of the want comes first. The quest comes first, and then, it's not always the same. It's always different, but sometimes you want to explore a certain quest, and then you wonder who would be the most interesting person to me in this quest, in this mission. So is it the most adequate person, or is it the most, or really a fish out of water, So I have a thing where I tend to have characters on spiritual or abstract quests, and it's really an issue. I don't make it easy on myself. They don't want material things. I've managed to figure this out over time, and I've had some problems with people. Like, what's their goal? I don't get it. It's like she's trying to become this, or he's trying to understand. With Leary, he's trying to find. He promised Harvard the future of psychology, a new method, and that's why he got hired. And he doesn't know what that is. So, and his students hate him. And if he doesn't find that method he promised them, he's going to be out of a job, a widower without a job at 40 with 2 kids. And by 40, I mean 1960, 40-year-old. Not today, being to 40,
it's nothing.
It's nothing. But in 1960, Don Draper was 36. So if you were 40, you were old. So he's trying to find something and he doesn't know what it is. And I like those sorts of challenges. It does turn me into somewhat of an intellectual writer, I guess, because I'm pursuing ideas. But that's okay. If the day I want to write a script about people pursuing money, I can. It's always easier if what they want is a loved one or money, because it's tangible.
What if it's the idea that they think money will I mean, what if it's this elusive carrot that okay, they get the money, but then it doesn't fix what they thought it would fix?
Oh, but I think that's inevitable. That's the thing. You know, it's the thing with the want and the need, right? So they want money, but they need to change, you know, the way they're approaching life in general. I don't know. So it's this idea that before the midpoint, there's the want, and after the midpoint, it's about the need. And movies are usually, I mean, there's a moral element to movies, Hollywood movies at least, which is, you know, they were trying to be the biggest investors in Wall Street, and it's actually about finding someone who loves you. This is a classic. I mean, we've seen this over and over and over again, right? He thought he was after the job, and he was actually after love. But it's easier if you say it's a movie about people desperate for money. Of course, when you actually watch the movie, it's not about that, you know. The want is usually doesn't define what the movie's about. And the reason why this works, it might sound schematic, but the reason why it works is that that's how people actually are. There's a lot of denial, I feel like, in everyday life, and we tell ourselves we want thing, and we don't really know what we want or what we need. Of course, movies do that in 90 minutes or 2 hours, but in life, you realize years later that, you know, I thought I wanted to make it big in Hollywood, and I actually wanted to, you know, I don't know, heal my wounds from the past. If it rings a bell, it's because a lot of people are going through that.
Sure. Well, a lot of people that go into entertainment.
Sure.
There's interesting things that drive them.
Incredibly happy, satisfied people don't need to tell stories.
You don't think so?
There's nothing dramatic about it. And I feel like, no, I'm not saying we should be miserable. Let me clarify this. I don't think we all should be tortured and sad. I'm saying that movies need a certain dramatic element of conflict. No one wants to see a movie about two people who are perfectly in love all the time.
That's true.
I'm not trying to be dogmatic. What I'm saying is that you need events and this and then, but, you know, it can be and it has to be like, but, however, you know, and so I don't know. I personally feel like the need to express yourself comes from something that you need to understand, something that you're lacking, something that...
You could say the same for someone who writes a piece of code. They're creating something. There's an artistry to that code.
Sure, and I've never written code, so I can't talk about that. I mean, anytime you create something is because you feel like something's missing, right? That's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't come from a place of total satisfaction. I'm not saying there should be something missing in your life, and if whoever gets to a point where they feel totally satisfied, man, I'm sure that's awesome. I'd love to be there, but I feel like the second you become enlightened and at peace with the universe and everything, I don't know why I would sit down and write a script. You know, I'd be basking in existence.
I see.
Not to get too philosophical and again, I don't mean that you have to be a tortured soul. You know?
No, and I'm sure the people that write, you know, the classic come back home for the high school reunion and, you know, and it's all in a neat package and it turns out everything works out okay. You know, that's different than somebody who writes about, you know, scamming investors on Wall Street or something. I mean, there's a different mindset there maybe. I don't know.
There's room for everyone. Look, this is the thing. The audience, again, I think the audience is smart. So if you have a movie or a story where a family is totally at ease and they're all happy together, after probably 10 minutes or 15, the audience is going to be like, something's going to happen, you know? Something's bad's going to happen. And then half hour goes by and they're like, wait, when's something going to happen? And then, you know, an hour goes by and they're perfectly happy eating peanut butter sandwiches. And you're like, what am I watching? There's nothing happening.
Right. So
that's, you know, even if you want to write a perfectly happy story, the audience is expecting some conflict. And I don't feel conflict is something artificial that you insert into the story. Life is full of conflict. You know, like out there, it's just, you're stuck in traffic. That's conflict. It's not someone died, but you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get out of my car, and I've been in traffic for half an hour, and I got to use the restroom, and oh my God, I'm gonna get home and I haven't bought food for the cats. That's conflict all the time.